Yeah, thanks Riz and Carloop for inviting us along, and obviously, it's a lot of work to get so many parties together, so, appreciate the effort. My name is Matthew Pay. I'm from Powerplant Project Services. Powerplant's an accredited distribution network service provider. So what that means is we work similarly to the DNSPs in that we do all the design work to help get the assets in the ground. We are based in Hallam, but we have 4 offices in total and 120 employees. We operate over many DNSPs in Australia, primarily in Victoria and New South Wales. We're quite a capable company in terms of electrical infrastructure development. We deal with completing design services in asset relocations, public lighting, underground residential design, and my team, sustainable energy consulting. Including my colleagues here today, Siri and Matt, we deal with the network integration for battery, solar, and electric vehicle charging assets. It's also worth noting that we are agnostic on both retail and infrastructure development. This is our typical framework for deployment of electric vehicle chargers. As we've seen today, connecting chargers into the grid is not as easy as just plugging it in. And depending on the charger size, it becomes more and more vital to understand how and where to economically integrate charging infrastructure into the network, and where new solutions I'll touch on in this presentation fit into those different applications. We complete design services for many customers wanting to electrify their fleets, whether they own a site or are doing initial planning to invest in a site that has enough capacity for their electric vehicle charging needs. Understanding the power supply requirement before diving into the design in this case is very important. So, site selection, infrastructure selection, and so on. I've recently concluded a design project for the Bass Coast Shire Council, where I've assisted in rolling out 4 DC and 2 AC charging sites for both public and council fleet charging applications. The most prominent learnings from this project came down to 3 points: site selection, infrastructure selection, and the network considerations before starting any of these. Also in our capability is the assessment for economic viability of battery-supported charging infrastructure and non-network integrated innovation charging solutions, and how you could pair your fleet to these sort of solutions. All right, so site selection. The diagram at the bottom here, outlines the typical connection of an EV charger into the grid. The most important consideration here is the front of the meter and behind the meter in terms of how assets go down the line to actually get power to the charger. Our design services deal with the VESI side, to which, depending on the requirement from the site, will require an upgrade to the connected substation, potential new cables, fusing, and earthing infrastructure. The difference between a well-selected site and a poor-selected site from a network perspective is the size and the utilization of these substations, and could be the difference between around $100,000 per site, just depending on how utilized a sub can be, the size of it. Depending on the DNSP that the charger is located in, this cost is at a customer contribution, which is attributed to the upgrades, and in short, depends on how much utilization is taken up by said customer. As an accredited service provider, Powerplant's able to view this data and understand the supply requirements for a specific site. And as you can see at the top, the incoming supply to where we are today. And as mentioned throughout this event, there are translating considerations about the location of chargers to the supply connection or the pillar. I'll use my recent project as an example of why this is so important. The electrical network where the selected sites were located were part of the ref call network, And without getting too technical, what this meant is that no underground high voltage equipment could be laid due to bushfire risk. This generated lots of issues, raised costs, and made augmenting the network a lot more difficult in this area to keep it in budget. So one last consideration I wanted to touch on as well, beyond all this, is cultural heritage. And obviously before putting in a charger in the ground, it's very important to do that due diligence just to make sure that you're not going to have that increased cost and increased concern for where you're putting your charger. Moving on to charging infrastructure, going in hand with site selection is just as important. You need the right chargers to fit the vehicle needs. From the network perspective, you want to be cautious of the input current or the power that goes to the charger, as it will be seen as the potential load requirement from the DNSP point of view. Even though chargers are running in sessions, the view of the DNSP is most likely going to be that it's operating 100% of the time, most of the time, without special exemption. And that's what the network upgrades are going to have to be designed to. So that's why this is so important. Charger weight and dimensions are also very important, as the design of a car park or charging bay could be limited during construction codes. So I'll go into a few of those different charging infrastructure soon. And lastly, but a bit of a no-brainer, but it's often looked past, is where you locate a charger in a bay so that the cables can actually reach the vehicle. I've seen quite a few councils provide, or just our customers provide, preliminary drawings where the chargers are in no way, shape or form going to be able to reach the vehicles, because a lot of the vehicles don't have a universal way of charging at the moment. These factors are amplified at a fleet level. So before making a choice on charging infrastructure, it is vital to ensure that you have considered the usage profile for your fleet, the total load requirement, and how many chargers to cover the fleet. And to make sure you purchase a charger with the correct plugs, as there are still a few outliers. Moving on from the network side, I wanted to run through the types of chargers you can install today or soon, as it becomes very apparent when looking to adopt EV charging that different sites and parking locations require different applications. The first of these being an integrated charger. These are pretty popular for DC fast charging at the moment, and are sort of an all-in-one type unit where no external equipment is required besides a potential switchboard or meter upgrade. Similar to this are dispenser chargers. They're great for mass DC charging, like a large parking lot, where you have a rectifier unit that acts as basically the converters that are in the integrated units. And then the chargers that are laid out, you can have lots of them, and they're a lot smaller in size and weight. Battery-supported charging comes in two forms. An integrated unit like this, which reduces the current input of from the network from about the 200 amp range to 40 amps on a relative scale, which can heavily reduce the network augmentation. And that's where the value stack is for these. So if I said to a customer, the network augmentation is going to cost you 350 grand, but if you integrate a battery into it, it's only going to cost you 100 grand in savings in their hands. And similar, we work with charge point operators on specified solutions, catering to an external battery to support charging requirements for high load customers, and further complete all the energy flow modeling to ensure that our customers select the best investment strategy with battery supported charging. As you may have seen a few of these pop up today, and they're popping up at the moment throughout New South Wales. They're great solutions for parallel parking spots, urban roadsides, more likely for AC charging. And similarly, curbside. At the moment in Victoria, there's a requirement for council-based exemptions, which we collaborate with to create regulation for an easement outside of a customer's property to the roadside for AC charging. Kiosk-mounted charging with Jolt. If you don't know, a kiosk substation, they're ground-mounted electrical boxes, which you usually see around. They're pretty hard to miss. And And there are some integrated solutions coming out of New South Wales at the moment, which utilize this space that these take up quite well by integrating EV charging. And these will only become more prominent in the estate development space, especially in Victoria, since we now have a ban on all gas infrastructure on new developments, which means there's more kiosks being used, which means developers are now looking for new solutions, such as this, to integrate more capabilities into their infrastructure. And lastly, vehicle to grid. Similar to solar exports, there's an opportunity for our vehicles to provide electricity to support daily power requirements. At the moment, it's a bit of a chicken and egg issue, as vehicle OEMs are waiting on chargers to support vehicle to grid, but charging manufacturers are waiting on vehicle OEMs for vehicle to grid support. So what you could do is look through us as a test bed to support locations for this new technology, and working with the DNSPs to help support the growth of new infrastructure solutions. An analogy I like to use for this technology is that where there's fleet chargers at offices or council depots, they can charge their vehicle there under their works power usage, drive their vehicle home, and support the residential loads during peak hours at night time when their solar isn't generating anymore. I hope you're able to gain some value out of what I've mentioned today. Feel free to contact me via the QR code here, or any solutions to integrate EV charging into your spaces. Thank you.